Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here with Dustin's Dynasty, here at you with another edition of this week's vlog. And we're closing out Mental Health Month this week. And before we do that, I always like to give an introduction to how we got here and how autism really affects my life. So, as hence, my name is Dustin. I am a middle-aged autistic man. I have been living this autism thing for what I recently discovered has been my whole life. Although being in and out of services and not having the proper services, at least start until I was in my teens, and then, living through it all. And today I have been living independently for over 7 years, almost eight, over five in the same apartment. And we've been working a part-time job for over 16 years. And we continue to improve ourselves every day, being the best that we can be, being who we are, and loving ourselves for who we are. So when we talk about mental health, and I say, how do I manage my mental health? How do I understand that life's challenges get in the way. And when we talk, that I am autistic, but, autism also often comes with some mental health challenges. I have two of what I would consider some of life's biggest mental health challenges. Anxiety, which many have, and bipolar disorder, which many have. And, those over the past, I'd say, year or so, probably last year at some time, I had accepted and understood the value of medication in that. And I talk a lot about that on my vlog and how that, but now over the last year, I had seen that, that helps me navigate life's challenges. It helps takes the edge off. Uh, Not so much as stopping the autistic traits, but keeping them manageable and life manageable, not being as irritable. Of course, keeping the symptoms that come with, the diagnoses away, like autism and bipolar, for example, when the symptoms show they're not good, and I have been there the last few years. I have relapsed a few times. I talk about that a lot in the past. But for today, I want to focus, on the here and now. And I think that's a big thing for me. We have to, even though the past happened, and it's about not so much dwelling on it as much as it is being a learning experience for ourselves and learning and growing from our experiences, the things, the thoughts we have. Um, Keeping ourselves emotionally regulated, managing our life stressors. These things all matter. And for approximately 2 years, I have been working at day service. I have been putting my effort at day services and doing that. Working on building those mental health skills, improving my mental health, improving my mood, and how to regulate myself in a world that is often not made for me, that is often challenging, that often has barriers, that often causes things to pop up, like anxiety, for example. Things we think that have to go a certain way or not being willing to be patient, and, instead, understanding why things like medicine help us in instances where we used to be so irritable that people were concerned and worried, and, we were acting in ways, but then seeing, looking 2 years down the road and seeing that, we're getting through things that we could never imagine. And, even though things change and you seem to think they're perfect, there's always going to be that one instance where it's not 100% accurate, and it will take skills to build up, skills to work through the challenges, skills to understand that you have to do the things that you need to do. And even as hard as it is me myself that is doing the work to make that happen and be brave and overcome, you know, things that I may have wanted to do in the past, or ways I wanted to react in the past. It's also seeing, not dwelling on the past and thinking that it's always about what I want or having my personal redemption or having to cause issues or to cause drama, but realizing that, if things bother me and that the point that there's things that autism is related to, those things happen and they're a part of autism, but we have to keep that behavior or manage that behavior away from detrimenting our mental health. So let's talk like echolalia or, maybe ruminating, holding on to things, for so long I held on to things they're not valid. They don't exist. But for so long, I held on to things and I let them get to me and I let them get under my skin. And they're ruminative and they're echolalic. And if anybody who doesn't know what echolalia is, it's, you're repeating this phrase. And people do repeat phrases. Autistic people repeat phrases. That is a part of life. It happens. We see it in people, and sometimes the world, doesn't understand. But, 99% of the time in public, I don't do it. But when I am home in my space, I can do that. And I feel that it happens there most. Or maybe with a close family member who I think, may understand or I may want to feel comfortable venting to. And, that should be, but it's not a reason as I had done in the past, to bring somebody down and out about things or make somebody feel bad or use things to come at them or not understand that things do change. And as you on the autism side, we do have a hard time accepting that things do change, things don't go our way all the time. And sometimes we even have to accept things we don't want to accept or take feedback that we don't want to accept. And even as much as this detriments us and makes our emotions want to boil, there's a part of us that we have to take a stand if we can and learn how to regulate ourselves in the most appropriate way possible to do the things in life that we have to do. And, a key ingredient of that is, doing those things, working at saying, how can I cope from these situations? How can I manage myself when, I'm anxious maybe because the bus is running late or, things aren't going the way that I want to go, or I'm sitting here, and I'm bored and I have to wait in maybe in a crowded waiting room. How do I manage myself in those situations? How do I get through that without causing a disruption, reacting, causing a scene? And I think, the biggest thing I think that really drives me to want to be better and want to do better, and it has been for probably 5 years almost, that I've really been like, hey, we got to start changing things around. And while the path to that wasn't perfect, I think seeing that other people who looked up to me saw me and saw how I was reacting to some of the silliest things or taking things out on people just because I was unable to keep regulated, or maybe things were happening that I didn't see completely or see the truth for what they were, or they weren't managed well. And as a result, I became a casualty of something. So I'm reacting, and these people who are looking up to me are seeing me react this way, and they don't, 90% of the time, they don't see it. They're stunned, they're shocked, they don't understand. And, I think that was part of it. Like, I don't want people to see me in that light. I don't want to see people react I don't want to see people see me in that way. So, even though it took time to understand that things are necessary to make that happen so that I can be my best and show others, show my peers, show those I'm working and showing and doing the work that we're doing, which is essentially I work for a mental health advocacy arm, then I have to, like I said last week, lead by example, be the evidence, do what we have to do because that's what's expected of me. And, even, we can say, okay, we'll throw medication at it and understand that medication is important. Yes, first and foremost, it is, it helps. And it took me a while to understand it. But it doesn't give me a pass to just say, okay, well, we're taking medication. It should solve all the problems. It doesn't. It takes work in us because in life there's going to be things that stress us. There's going to be things that hurt our feelings. There's going to be things that we can't control. And I think that's another big thing. Understanding that you can't control everything. You don't have a say in everything. Life happens. Changes happen. Things happen that are out of your control. And, honestly, you have to learn to accept things that you may not want to accept or may not agree with. And, sometimes it's taking, seeing how can you benefit from something in your way while understanding and respecting others and the decision that others make, despite your feelings or your view on it, learning to move on. And I think that was one of the biggest things. And I shared it in a special post yesterday, on my website. I like to watch board meetings of special interest from school boards. And, this one district, not too far from me, consolidated their schools and became one, even though they've been one and two separate campuses, and just came together as a different name. And, you know, people who, people on that board who dwell on past things and want to keep stirring, energy and drama and that sort of thing. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make things better. You don't move on. And, even though, maybe somebody else on the same board doesn't get what they want, they learn to accept it. They move on. They do their thing because even though they're not paid for it, they do it because, they learn to accept things for what they are. And the real reason they are there is for the people that they serve, the people they represent as a whole. you know Things they don't get. It's hard, and it's not sometimes things aren't right, and sometimes you feel passionate about things, and sometimes you feel determined about things, but sometimes you have to understand there has to be a balance. There has to be, a level that, okay, maybe I'm not getting what I want, and maybe I can't. But if I'm, what am I getting? Am I getting what I need? Am I able to keep myself calm and composed and not react or cause a scene, or not, be making things irritating or things overwhelming or things, hard for me? It's about being able to keep myself regulated in the whole grand scheme of things and not wanting to continue to dwell on things or have hurt or cause reaction or cause energy or cause drama just because I want that or I want that feeling. I want to release that energy. It's finding ways to find that way to release that energy that is healthy and brings the feeling that we need to feel good about ourselves. Yes, we may have stored up energy or repentant energy or energy that we just want to get out. But we have to be the responsible ones, as part of taking care of our mental health by doing the things that are helpful and not hurtful. And the things that are hurtful is bringing up things or causing issues or starting drama when there doesn't need to be drama. Maybe, it's something, if it doesn't even involve you, or maybe there's just nothing that you don't have a part in. It's accepting that. And I think over the past few years, I've learned to accept things and work with things and understand, how things work and why things are the way they are. And, it's about rationalizing things and with knowing as much detail as you can and understanding, there's reasons behind everything, and we're not always privy to that. And maybe, sometimes things do make us anxious too, but we don't jump ahead of things. We don't jump 20 steps ahead of things. We come up with a plan. Yes, we come up with, okay, if something doesn't happen, how are we going to go about addressing it? How are we going to go about advocating for what we need? Not exactly what we want, what we need, and not just keep, thinking we're entitled to things, even though, think we may be entitled to things, or we may have things that we need, but, and sometimes we don't always get our way, but it's not about being pushy or being, demanding. It's or being entitled. And I think, understanding that, in those moments for me that I had to understand about, why medication was so valuable to me. And I know I keep bringing that up, but I had to understand that was, you know, in the slightest irritable moment, it could bring me down. And, it could make me just miserable and react to everything. And people saw that. And as much as, it's hard to think and you're on this doubt cloud, people see it. People know it. And people that know you good or know, how people are will catch up on that. And for me, eventually almost 2 years ago, people saw that and brought it to my attention. And as much as it took time to understand and accept it for what it was knowing that, hey, you got to take care of yourself or you're going to be in big trouble. And I think that's the thing where the stigma comes in and where people get stigmatized or feel stigmatized towards us as people with autism or mental health challenges. They see how we're acting. And even though there may or may not be a way how we navigate the world, people look at those moments. I think when people who they presume can be under control and do the right thing, and how life is manageable. It's been portrayed in many TV shows. It's been portrayed in many things that things are valuable, and that's what keep people going. It is absolutely medication, but it's also managing ourselves, understanding expectations, learning, how to protect our peace, how to have self-care. Those things all matter in their own way. And it's for me, it took time. It took almost 2 years to see that and to see the value of things that I didn't see 2 years ago, the things I wanted to avoid, the things I thought I had the power to do because I was in a behavior pattern when I wasn't taking care of my mental health, that I saw that I was unwilling to see, there's things, there's channels, there's steps, there's ways about going things, there's questions. You got to have an open dialogue. You got to communicate. Those things have to happen. And, even though, there's setbacks to things like with medication, well, like the weight gain, yes, I know that. Yes, I know there's eating problems. Yes, I sleep a lot. Yes, those things are real too. But we work through them. We accept them for what they are. We understand them. And I think if you're in any mental health community who is advocating for the right things, which I'm very fortunate, I'm very glad to be working in that kind of paradigm where, they see the reality of mental health and how we need to have the world accommodate us more and fight for what we need and understand the need to take care of ourselves in whatever way that may be, and always the correct ways, the healthy ways, the ways that we can navigate life without causing a scene, without causing challenges, without stigmatizing ourselves, without making the world stigmatize us. We do the advocacy work to make sure that people with mental health challenges are human beings ultimately. People who are autistic are also human beings. They deserve, the least restrictive care supports they can have and are able to have. And, for me too, I had to see that, taking care of your mental health opens the door to seeing the need to have pride in yourself, have pride in your living situation, wanting to clean things up, wanting to take a shower, you know, we talk a lot about, in online, I see a lot about, autistic people not, wanting to do things, but sometimes it takes motivation on our part and focusing on our mental health and doing the things that we need to do to care for us. Yes, maybe we do sleep a lot, but we're motivated to get up and get going, get doing, doing the things that we need to do to be thriving productive members of society in whatever way we can, not and not having shame in whatever way that is, or how we as human beings conduct ourselves, and looking past maybe the small things in life where people will say things that maybe you're hurt by or that bother you, but not allowing yourself to draw yourself into those comments or those words or those there's names that people think, and seeing that maybe they're just considerate or maybe they're just not understood completely or not see us as the whole person. But we as the person also have to do the work to not cause people to see us as less than who we really are by causing the stigma that people have about us. And, that means too, we got to be on top of our mental health each and every day, no matter what it takes, to push to do the right thing because we know it's the best thing. And it matters not only to us, but those around us. And, it takes a lot to manage ourselves, but, it's seeing the work that we have done. It's seeing the wins that come. It's seeing how, maybe looking and seeing, how far we've came and realizing that yeah, maybe the battle's not over, but we're getting there and we're in a much better place than where we were. So I hope we close out that mental health month on a good note. It was a pleasure talking about it. I've been thinking about these topics the last couple of days, and I'm glad to be up this morning sharing that with you. Life changes too, Friday night was our vlogging day, but we moved that because sometimes things happen. Maybe family needs us. Maybe we just need to rest, and that too has been easier to accept. It's working through those challenges that really matter. So if you haven't tapped that like button, please do. If you want to hear more, tap that notification bell if you want to see when I come back online. I usually do a vlog every week. We're almost 400, and I would hope to get there around my 41st birthday. I like milestones to match, and we've done a lot of improvement over the last 50 episode, that's 100 episodes. I think, we wanted to go out with a bang at 300 and things just turned really bad. So, the goal is to keep going and be our best for 400. You know, it's always those best. As always, follow me on Facebook. I'm almost to 1,500 likes. I would always like, it's not a mandate, but if you feel that you want to read my content, Facebook, X, Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, and we're starting to get back on it a little more. They're all under Dustin's Dynasty. You can search that, you can type a handle, and you'll get there. I'm on the web, www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, if you need a link to anything, the podcasting platforms, sign up for my weekly e-newsletter, anything. All my links are on Linktree at Dustin's Dynasty. Again, let's have a good weekend, everyone. Take care of yourself. You remember, you matter, you are enough, and you are loved. Let's have a great day, everyone, a great weekend, and we'll talk at you soon. Bye for now.